u Rwanda ruzira ruswa n'akarengane mu cyerekezo 2050. Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
You are tuned to Radio Imanzi, broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umogano. The headlines. President Paul Kagame and First Lady Janet Kagame this morning received Prince Charles and Duchess of Cornwall Camilla at Village Urugwiro. The Commonwealth Business Forum delegates have called for collective efforts in bridging the digital divide in the 54-nation community. The Kenya Revenue Authority says its workers will start wearing body-worn cameras in the latest bid to curb tax cheating and bribery. Welcome back. News in detail. President Paul Kagame and First Lady Janet Kagame this morning received Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall Camilla at Village Urugwiro. According to the Office of the President, they discussed existing partnerships and areas of mutual interest. The Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall also visited the Kigali Genocide Memorial and laid a wreath in honor of victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Prince Charles also visited residents of the Reconciliation Village in Bugesera district and toured the Nyamata Genocide Memorial Site to pay respect to over 45,000 victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi buried there. Delegates for the Commonwealth Business Forum visited the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, RICA, in Bugesera district. Dr. Richard Ferguson, RICA's Vice Chancellor, gave the guests a guided tour of the institute. The Commonwealth Business Forum delegates were also able to taste the wine produced by the institute. The Commonwealth Business Forum delegates have called for collective efforts in bridging the digital divide in the 54-nation community on the second day of the Business Forum. The Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, said the rapid advancement of technologies in the fourth industrial revolution is creating a second order of divide.
The rapid advancement of technologies in the fourth industrial revolution is creating a second order of divide, which is along the lines of human resource capacity and skills to create and apply digital technology to economic growth and sustainable development. Many in our societies are not digitally native or digitally literate. I certainly try to consider myself a digital native. But when I see what my sons are doing, I realize that I'm from a whole different generation. But such it is for many people in our populations. They are not instantly taken and absorbing technology. For many in the developing world, we are only consumers of technology. We are only utilizing the benefits of technology as appliances. For the developing world, we need to start seeing ourselves as the originators and creators of technology. We need to start seeing ourselves as the innovators of technology and using technology to create economic value. Mankind has been at this juncture of technology before. How have we managed it so that it was actually beneficial to all, so that its benefit was equitably spread? I believe now that we have not just the technology to make life better, but we now have the understanding of governance. And we now have the understanding of the importance of equity in how resources are distributed, not just on the national level, but globally as well. Within this forum, we have the capacity to ensure that the promise that ICT and other technologies hold for the upliftment of mankind is actually realized, and the benefit is actually secured for all our people. It is evident that the way forward for middle-income Commonwealth states will require even greater investment in research and innovation to build digital capacity and to ensure that we are empowered, enabled, and indeed repositioned to manage shocks and take advantage of opportunities. The Commonwealth is reported to be home to 12% of the world's researchers and accounts for around 10% of global research and development expenditure. We therefore have within our grouping a critical threshold of resources to meaningfully support and accelerate the digital development of our members through improving our regulatory framework and supporting foundational systems such as digital identity, expanding the capacities and readiness of our human resources in ICT, developing instrumental strategies for inclusion of the vulnerable and marginalized in our societies, and expanding investments in building out the digital infrastructure and economies. The increasing capacity of information and communication technologies, analytics, and innovation gives rise to new opportunities every day.
Rwanda's Minister of ICT and Innovation, Ingabire Paula, said that with 2.9 billion people remaining worldwide unconnected, we cannot wait for the next generation to bridge the gap.
What is also alarming about the 2.9 billion that remain unconnected now, this is 2022. In 2021-2020, we were talking about 3 billion people that were unconnected. And so a year later, or over a year later, you're talking about 2.9. So in essence, if we're going to go at the speed at which we're going at, we're talking about another 29 years before we connect the remaining 2.9 billion. Yet, we all recognize that this past year has been what we call the COVID connectivity boost because of the COVID-19, operators, scaling up their infrastructure, everyone going digital, whether it's organizations. But then when you look at the gap that we have, I don't think we can afford to wait for the next generation to close on this gap. And so as we go through this Kigali Action Plan, but also as we link it to the conversations that we're having today here at the CHOGM Business Forum, the key thing for us to really think about is twofold when we think about the digital divide. There's the digital divide in terms of, places that remain unconnected, where you wouldn't find any minimum piece of infrastructure coverage lacks largely, but there's also the other statistic of people who live in areas of coverage and still are not able to use it. And so here, we'll be talking about what is it going to take to build the digital literacy skills? What is it going to take to drive affordability of devices, affordability of these services? What is it going to take to drive content? And when you talk about content, you'll think from, educational apps, financial inclusion. All of these things are going to rely heavily on the investments that we make in the digital infrastructure. So, and Tessie, maybe just to wrap up on this, I think what we're looking at is closing both the coverage gap that exists. I think for many countries when you look at the statistics of population coverage versus geographic coverage, there's still a distinct gap to cater for. But I think what is more emergent for all of us as we sit here in the room and debate on this is the usage gap that will be going forward. And I wanted to close on just a few examples of what Rwanda has done. We have put in place a digital ambassadors program where we, have digital ambassadors in different parts of the country. They'll go out and train citizens. But also what we're doing is to mainstream digital literacy within the education system, because majority of our people are the youth and they're in some form of education establishment. When it comes to devices, and you'll be seeing a lot of this happening over the next few years, it's the work that we're doing with the different operators we have within the economy, MTN, Airtel, the different companies that rely heavily on making sure that a citizen has a device and can access their services, to really roll out affordable device financing mechanisms that make it easy for a citizen to afford a smart device, but at the same time be able to access the information and services that we're providing them with. And not withholding, I think what's more important is the policies and regulations we are putting in place to support all the operators to drive wide-scale deployment of infrastructure, but also adoption at the same time. And I'm sure all of these are things that are definitely happening in different countries. The key thing is to understand what are those things that are going to allow us to drive this adoption as fast as possible, because 29 years is probably not acceptable for anyone.
Overcoming the digital divide has not gotten easier, particularly in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, to combat this, some non-profit groups in partnership with governments worldwide have taken to providing internet access and laptops to school districts and areas with internet users of a lower income level. The Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, has recognized a Rwandan social activist, Christelle Kwizera, as one of the young leaders impacting the community. She was presented with the Queen's Points of Light Award for having founded Water Access Rwanda, a social enterprise that scales up water access to vulnerable communities in Rwanda. The Queen's Points of Light Award is a global prize that identifies leaders in the Commonwealth who are particularly doing impactful social activities for their communities. It is coming to Rwanda for the third time after previously being given to Solid Africa's Isabel Kamaliza and Rwanda Women Network's Mary Barikungeri. Presenting the award, the UK Minister of State for Commonwealth, Lord Tariq Ahmad of Wimbledon, described Water Access Rwanda as a ready and frankly good business. Kwizera launched Water Access Rwanda in 2014 when she was 20 years old to provide a safe and sustainable way for Rwandans living in rural communities to easily access clean water. With a network of 95 boreholes and purified clean water grids, the enterprise now provides clean water to more than 100,000 Rwandans every day. At the same time, it is providing employment opportunities for young people. Kwizera's work in water and geophysics has seen her train and support the development of social water businesses across the continent. Still on to matters of awards, 4 young innovators have been awarded $10,000 each at the Commonwealth Startup Festival. The festival celebrates innovation and entrepreneurship drive and contributions of Commonwealth youth to addressing some of the world's most pressing challenges. Over 400 young entrepreneurs applied for the festival, and those that were selected were sponsored to pitch their innovations for cash prizes at the concluded Commonwealth Youth Forum. Among them, 12 were chosen, from which the 4 innovations emerged as the best in each category: champions of intertrade export promotion, pioneers of agricultural innovation, agricultural productivity, green innovation guru, addressing circular and climate change issues, and digital geeks, leveraging digital technologies to address daily life challenges. 3 of the winners are from Rwanda, and these are Vuba Vuba Limited, an online food distribution platform; AfriFood Limited, that exports premium fresh produce; and 1 Oz Training Center, a business training center; and Salubata Technologies, which invests lifestyle technologies that help people and planet, from Nigeria. The Commonwealth Secretary General has launched the Digital Trade Hackathon at the end of the Commonwealth Youth Forum in Kigali. The dynamic initiative aims to develop innovative solutions that increase the adoption of digital technology in the Commonwealth and beyond, the need for which has been accentuated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Nabasa Peace with this report.
The hackathon is a joint initiative between the Commonwealth Secretariat's Connectivity Agenda, CCA, and the Commonwealth Telecommunications Organization, CTO, which will take place in October. The Commonwealth Secretary General, Patricia Scotland, expressed delight in the launch of the hackathon, saying it is another important project for young people. She said the hackathon will scout, select, and support impact-driven teams with game-changing solutions designed to harness the shift to digitalization across the Commonwealth and beyond.
Envisage your dream and then grab it with both hands and know that all of us are standing right there with you. Sometimes I know you feel as if you have Goliath-like problems. Let me tell you what I, as your Secretary General, have been trying to do with all member states helping me in the last 6 years. We have been crafting the perfectly weighted stone for David's sling. And you may feel small, you may feel young, you may feel overpowered, but remember David. He took that sling, he put the stone in the middle of it, and down came Goliath. Take him down. So I believe in you. There is no greater love I have than for all of you, because you know that every single one of you in our Commonwealth, you all belong to me. So I'm going to say thank you. I wanted to congratulate the new team from being elected. I wanted to say to those who are stepping down, you have big shoes to fill, but don't walk away from your new brothers and sisters who are taking up the mantle. Walk with them, encourage them, stand by their side, share all the things that went wrong with them, but also be generous about sharing all your successes. They can do this because you have done this. So I'm going to leave you, if I may, with the blessing my mother always left me when I went on a long journey, and you're going on a long journey to success. She said this: "May the Lord bless and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be merciful unto you all the days of your life. May your guardian angel walk beside you, and may the Lord keep you safe in the palm of his hand." And remember, there is nothing that he and you working together cannot achieve. So go and fly, my friends. Fly like eagles. And we, the older generation, will be rejoicing all the way. Fly, fly, and fly.
The Commonwealth Digital Trade Hackathon's theme is Harnessing Technology to Transform the Digital Trade Economy. The Rwandan Prime Minister Edward Ngirente said young people are trusted to take charge of the future and find solutions to the challenges the world is facing today. He argued the youth to take their place on the world stage, to be bold and courageous, and to choose courage over fear.
Taking charge of our future, as the theme of this forum indicates, could not have come at a better time. Young people, today more than ever, have endless opportunities. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in innovation have been led by young people. In Rwanda, for example, young innovators have developed simulation technology that facilitates learners in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to acquire practical applications to improve learning outcome. And yet, with these opportunities, there comes challenges too. The world is faced with a different set of challenges compared to those we had about 2 to 3 decades ago. Reversing the pace of global warming, building resilient economies and communities, creating dignified and equitable lives for our people, as well as addressing governance and the rule of law, are among issues we share across the globe. We are banking on you. We have full confidence in you because the challenges we face today require attribute of youth. Your declaration to successfully transform our world by making 6 thematic areas as priorities is much appreciated, and we pledge our support in making it a reality. I am sure you are now more connected, determined, and energized to implement the resolutions of this forum. The government of Rwanda will keep encouraging the ongoing partnerships between the Commonwealth Secretariat, the Youth Council, member countries, and civil society in an inclusive and sustainable way to deliver on a common future for our Commonwealth. As we conclude what has been an extraordinary forum, I urge the youth here to take your place on the world stage. Be bold and courageous. Choose courage over fear, and you choose to quit. Take bold moves and in designing the future of your communities, of our society, because history is in your hands.
The dynamic initiative aims to develop innovative solutions that increase the adoption of digital technology in the Commonwealth and beyond, the need for which has been accentuated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Proposed solutions will seek to explore high potential existing and new technologies that can facilitate trade and across-border paperless trade. The hackathon is open to teams with scale-ready solutions that want to accelerate their impact.
Authorities have expressed concern that the allowance to help fight malnutrition may be encouraging mothers to have more kids as a source of income. Nabasa Pace with more.
Allowances given to parents with young kids may be working as incentives to produce more children. Breastfeeding mothers in Gicumbi district are given quarterly allowances amounting to 22,500 Rwandan francs. Leaders have expressed concern that the allowance to help fight malnutrition may be encouraging mothers to produce more kids as a source of income. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning has promised to carry out research to establish the reason for the high birth rate in the district. The Deputy Mayor, Gicumbi District, Libereta Niyonsaba, says the district authorities are aware of the high birth rate in the district and plans are underway for a sensitization campaign to educate parents that they should produce a manageable number of children. Ninawagaga Korodin, the Director General, LODA, Local Government Development Authority, says about 8,000 people in Gicumbi district have benefited from the allowance scheme. Each person getting 7,500 francs per month. The payment is released quarterly, where a person gets 22,500 Rwandan francs after 3 months. A mother is given the money at the early stage of pregnancy until 2 years after the baby is born.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
The Kenya Revenue Authority says its workers will start wearing body-worn cameras in the latest bid to curb tax cheating and bribery. The Business Daily reported that the body cams would be used by staff who work in the Domestic Tax Department and Customs and Border Control. The use of cameras will start in high-value locations like the border points, Mombasa Port, the Inland Container Depot and Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. A team of surgeons from Zanzibar and Norway have installed pacemakers into 5 locals suffering from heart ailments, the first kind of surgery conducted in the island. The hospital executive director Msafidi Marijani says the pacemakers will help the patient's heart beat at the normal pace. Most of the beneficiaries were over 50 years of age, with the youngest being 47 years and the oldest 78 years.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Uzziel Ndagijimana, will on Thursday, June 23rd, present the budget outlining what the government will spend in the coming fiscal year 2022-2023, which starts in July. On May 19th, the minister tabled an estimated budget of 4,658.4 billion Rwandan francs to the parliamentarians, which was later deliberated on by the Standing Committee on National Budget and Patrimony. Later, the proposed amendments to the budget were sent back to the central government to be considered in the final drafts that will be read to the Joint Chamber of Parliament. This represents an increase of 217.8 billion Rwandan francs compared to 4,440.6 billion in the revised budget of the current fiscal year. The budget will put an emphasis on continuing the implementation of the National Strategy for Transformation 1, the 7-year government program running from 2017 through 2024. On the sources of funding, the minister said that domestic resources will amount to 2,654.9 billion Rwandan francs, equivalent to 57% of the proposed budget. Also, the budget will be supported by external financing with grants totaling 906.9 billion Rwandan francs, while loans will amount to 651.5 billion Rwandan francs. Overall, domestically mobilized resources plus the external loans the country will repay will account for 80.5% of the country's proposed spending in the coming fiscal year. It is expected that Rwanda's economy will grow by 6% in the entire 2022, indicating that the country revised downwards its economic growth forecast for this year from the initial 7.2% because of global economic challenges such as inflation, the disruption of the supply chain of commodities, and economic impacts of the Russia-Ukraine war shock. Recent data from the National Institute of Statistics showed that Rwanda's gross domestic product increased by 7.9% to 3,025 billion Rwandan francs in the first quarter of 2022, up from 2,588 billion Rwandan francs in the same quarter of last year. Now the Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 159,300,000 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in one deal on the fixed income market, while the equities market remained quiet. Bregwa closed the counter at 160 Rwandan francs, Bank of Kigali at 265, I&M Bank at 43, M10 Rwanda at 177, Simerwa at 120 Rwandan francs, Equity Bank at 440, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370, National Media Group at 1,200, Uchumi Supermarket at 104, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.6 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 8.8 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.43 and the selling price was 0.44. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.273 and the selling price was 0.278. Burundian franc buying price was 0.49 and the selling price was 0.5. The US dollar buying price was 1,013 and the selling price was 1,033. The British pound buying price was 1,239 and the selling price was 1,264. The euro buying price was 1,063 and the selling price was 1,084. There you have it. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.